You're tuning in to Creepy Time, where we bring you chilling creepy stories and eerie urban legends every day at 6 p.m. To support Creepy Time, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss the story together. Now, let's dive into today's tale. Survival rules for night shift shippers. Jen Harper hadn't slept more than 4 hours in 2 weeks. Not since the latest layoff at the warehouse, and not since her mom got sick again. The rent on their motel room ticked forward by the day $45 every morning by 11 a.m. The manager was patient, but patience in Cleveland's West End wore thin fast. She'd worked nights at a call center, briefly, until it closed. Then it was DoorDash, then grocery packing, then pet sitting. Nothing paid enough to pull them out. So when her cracked old Motorola buzzed at 3:17 a.m., the screen lighting up her dark, quiet room, she didn't ignore it. She hadn't had an app notification in hours. The glow showed something unfamiliar, a black and white icon titled Midnight Courier. She didn't remember downloading it. Still, her thumb tapped. On screen, a message scrolled in all caps. Urgent night shift available, $1,000, no experience required, 10 p.m., 6 a.m., start tonight. The job was one tap away. She stared at the message, then at her daughter sleeping under thin sheets, the portable fan barely cooling the muggy room. $1,000? That would cover 5 weeks of rent, medicine, groceries, even a small birthday surprise. No background check, no resume, no interview. She hesitated for 5 seconds, then tapped accept. The screen flickered, then locked. That night, Jen left her daughter with her mother, frail, but still sharp. She said it was a night shift helping with inventory. She didn't mention the lack of company name or why the app disappeared after she accepted. She didn't say it felt wrong. At 9:40 p.m., she rode her cousin's old e-bike down the cracked side streets of Cleveland's industrial edge, where boarded-up factories gave way to overgrown lots and flickering streetlights. Her delivery instructions led her past familiar ground: liquor stores, scrap yards, dollar stores, gas stations with bulletproof glass. Finally, the GPS pinged green. 801 Ash Lane. Except Ash Lane didn't look like a street anymore. It looked like an alley that had given up being useful. There was no signage, no mailbox, just a squat house with boarded windows covered in graffiti and decades of soot. A single brass plate was bolted to the door at eye level. Midnight Delivery HQ, ring 3 times. Jen swallowed her nerves and did as instructed. 1 knock, then 2, then 3. The door creaked open by itself. Inside was darkness and the smell of old wood, rust, and mildew. She stepped inside hesitantly. A single bulb swung above a wooden desk, barely illuminating the figure sitting behind it. He was tall, impossibly tall and pale in a way that suggested more than just bad lighting. His clothes were neat: black shirt, black gloves, a name tag that read Morgan Shade, Night Operations Manager. His eyes never blinked. His hands were clasped in front of him, unmoving. "You're Jen Harper," he said, not asked. She nodded. Without shifting, he opened a drawer and placed a sealed envelope on the desk. "Open this. Read every word. These are the first 7 rules. There are 15 total. You'll receive the rest in time." Jen opened the envelope. Inside was a heavy sheet of paper, the kind used for certificates or important notices. The words were printed in block handwriting, sharp and angular, like they'd been drawn by someone with a knife. The first 7 rules were listed plainly, with nothing else. 1. Do not accept any orders before 10 p.m. 2. Do not open any packages, no matter what you hear. 3. If the delivery address does not exist, leave the package at the GPS coordinates and leave immediately. 4. Never deliver to the same address more than 3 times in a month. 5. If the recipient doesn't answer after 3 knocks, leave the package and do not wait. 6. If you hear your name being called from behind you, do not turn around. 7. If invited inside, decline no matter who asks. Rule number 6 was underlined in red ink. "This a prank?" she asked, forcing a smile. "No," Morgan replied, "and don't treat it like one. We do not tolerate broken protocol." "I'm just delivering things?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood his full height, even more disturbing in the bare light, and placed an old gray flip phone on the table. It looked like it hadn't been manufactured in at least a decade. The screen was scratched. Only one app was installed, Navigata. The icon was a black triangle pointing down. "This phone is your lifeline," Morgan said. "Do not lose it. Do not shut it off. If it rings and the caller ID says anything other than Night HQ, do not answer. If it buzzes, that means you've got a job. Follow it exactly." "What's in the packages?" she asked, already regretting the question. "It doesn't matter. Shouldn't I know what I'm delivering?" "You're not delivering. You're surviving. There's a difference." Jen pocketed the phone, feeling a chill radiate from it like it had just come out of a freezer. Morgan's eyes didn't leave her. As she stepped toward the door, he added one last thing. "If you encounter a courier named Lacey Grange, do not engage. She no longer works here, but sometimes she forgets." The door shut behind her with a loud click. She got back on her bike and rolled toward the freeway overpass where the first address pinged. Order number 1, 11337 Harrow Mill Road. Arrival time, 10:36 p.m. The road was dark and stretched past the city line into what used to be farmland before developers abandoned the projects. She passed strip malls where nothing stayed open, chain restaurants with their letters burned out, and finally, a long stretch of forest. Her headlight barely cut the darkness. But when she arrived at the destination, there was no house, just a circular clearing surrounded by pine trees. The GPS placed her dot directly in the middle of the clearing. No house, no driveway, nothing. She stopped pedaling. The phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled out the package. It was small, the size of a shoebox, wrapped in plain brown paper. She carried it to the center of the clearing and placed it gently on a flat rock. As she stepped back, her phone buzzed again. A message on screen read, "Order delivered. Do not look back." Every nerve in her body screamed to turn around, to check, just once. But rule number 6 throbbed in her mind. If you hear your name being called from behind you, do not turn around. She didn't hear her name, not exactly, but she did hear something, a soft sound, like breath, like something exhaling through wet lungs. She got on her bike and rode faster than she ever had in her life. She didn't sleep the next morning. Her hands still trembled. Her daughter asked if she was okay. Jen said she was tired. That was true. She remembered something then, a story Ray had told her years ago, back when they were still talking. He'd taken an overnight delivery job one summer for a now-defunct grocery service. One night, the app sent him to a field an hour outside Akron. When he got there was just a white mailbox on a post in the middle of the field. No house, no driveway. He left the box of perishables and turned to leave. That's when he heard gravel crunching behind him like footsteps. He never looked back. He just ran. And he never took another overnight shift again. The next night, Jen got a new text from an unknown number. "Shift 2 begins, 10 p.m. Confirm with yes." She typed yes without thinking. Some jobs aren't meant to be understood. Some rules aren't there to protect the company. They're there to protect you. If someone offers you a fortune in the dead of night with no questions asked, remember, you're not being hired, you're being recruited. And in the dark, the real job is staying alive long enough to understand the rules. Jen didn't remember falling asleep. One moment she was checking her daughter's backpack for missing notebooks, the next she was sitting upright on the motel bed, heart pounding, sweat dripping down her back. It was 7:04 p.m. The gray flip phone vibrated on the table beside her, screen flashing. Shift 2 begins. Prepare. First delivery coming at 10:02 p.m. She stared at it for a while. There was no snooze button, no back arrow, no settings to change the tone. The phone didn't care if she was ready. She had said yes. That was enough. She spent the next 2 hours cleaning the bike chain, checking the tires, and pretending it was just another gig. It didn't matter that last night's delivery had no house. It didn't matter that the package felt like it throbbed faintly in her hands, as if something inside was breathing. It didn't matter that she never heard a single voice, saw a single person, or received a single tip. The app said, delivered. That was all that counted, right? At 10:02 p.m., the phone buzzed again. Order number 002-554 Bignell Street, ETA 10:28 p.m. Bignell Street was halfway across town, deep east side, tucked into one of the oldest neighborhoods in Cleveland. Back in the 42nd, it had been filled with families and backyard gardens. Now, most of the windows were boarded, and entire buildings were ghost shells for copper thieves and squatters. She biked through dim alleyways and forgotten intersections. Wind colder than it should have been for a July night. The air smelled faintly of burnt plastic and lilacs. When she arrived, she found the house easily. 554 was still etched in the concrete step, but the home above it looked like it had given up a decade ago. The porch was half collapsed. A tree had grown through the front steps. The mailbox was missing its door, and the window above had been shattered and boarded, but the number was right. She climbed the crooked steps and knocked 3 times sharp and clear. The package felt heavier than it should have. She tried not to listen too closely, but she swore something inside it shifted. No answer. She waited 15 seconds, knocked again, nothing. Third time, still no response. She looked down at the Navigata screen. Knox exhausted, leave package, do not wait. She placed it gently on the doorstep and turned back toward the street. As she stepped off the last stair, her phone buzzed again. She pulled it out. But it wasn't Navigata. The screen simply said, Lacey is watching. Jen stopped in her tracks. The screen went black. She turned her head slowly, trying not to panic. The street behind her was empty, no headlights, no cars, no silhouettes, but something felt wrong, like she was in a photo someone else had taken, as if the scene had already happened and she was just catching up. She biked faster than usual getting back. She didn't report the message. There was no place to do that. At 11:42 p.m., she got the next assignment. Order number 003-118 Crosswell Avenue, 5th floor, ETA 12:07 a.m. That address sounded familiar. Jen pulled out her own phone. Google Maps still worked there. She searched the apartment complex. It came up, but with a note. Demolished, 2015, now zoned for retail. There was no building, not anymore. She froze. Rule 3. If the delivery address does not exist, leave the package at the GPS coordinates and leave immediately. The GPS dot was precise. She arrived to find a vacant lot, weeds growing in neat rows over where the foundation must have been. A rusted sign stuck in the ground said, Future site of Riverline Plaza, coming 2016. But clearly, that never happened. She walked to the center of the lot, following the app. The wind picked up, She could hear something creaking wood or maybe old iron, but there were no buildings around, not for blocks. She knelt and set the package on the bare earth. Her phone buzzed again. Order delivered. Do not look back. She stood, then paused. A whisper, faint but clear. Jen, it wasn't the wind. It wasn't in her head. It came from behind her left shoulder, just inside the space where peripheral vision begins to register but refuses to focus. Rule 6. If you hear your name being called from behind you, do not turn around. She closed her eyes and whispered back, I'm not new at this. Then she walked. By 1:30 a.m., she was back in her motel room. Her mom was asleep on the other bed, her daughter curled at her side like a kitten. Jen stared at the phone until her vision blurred. A new message appeared. Courier performance. 2 deliveries complete. GPS error noted at Crosswell site. Continue compliance. You are doing well. She didn't know who wrote it. It didn't come from Morgan. It wasn't in the app. It simply showed up. At 2:47 a.m., her phone buzzed again. This time, it didn't give her a destination, just a name. The hospital wing, 6th floor. Warning, not on public records. Arrival time, 3:03 a.m. Cleveland General had 12 floors, but no 6th floor anyone could access publicly. Jen knew that. She'd volunteered there for class credit when she was 16. The elevators went from 1 to 5, then 7 to 12. No buttons for 6. People used to joke about it, said it was the storage floor or an architectural mistake. She almost didn't go. But something in her body moved anyway, as if her will no longer had full jurisdiction over her muscles. She entered through the ER side door, which, to her surprise, was unlocked. The security guard at the check-in desk was asleep with his headphones in. Jen crossed the lobby, pressed the elevator call button, and stepped inside. She looked at the panel. As expected, no 6. Then the phone in her pocket buzzed hard. She took it out. Tap here to access level 6. She tapped. The elevator jolted. Then it started to rise. At first, she thought it was going to skip to 7, but the elevator dinged and stopped between floors. The light flicked to 6. The doors opened. No lights, no noise, no color, just gray halls lit by emergency strobes that blinked in slow, irregular patterns. The tiles were filthy, some cracked, and there was graffiti scratched into the drywall. It doesn't end here, and clock the signs before the signs clock you. She followed the GPS marker down the hallway, heart thudding, every shadow screaming for attention. She passed rusted gurneys, broken vending machines, and walls that looked like they'd been painted in ash. Finally, she reached a door marked 613. She placed the package down and knocked once, then twice, then 3 times. Nothing. She waited. Then came the sound. Not footsteps, something like dragging fabric, and breathing wet and rhythmic. She stepped back, but her feet wouldn't move quickly enough. She didn't wait for more. She turned, she ran. The elevator still waited. She hit one and didn't breathe until she was out on the street, hands shaking. The Navigata app buzzed one last time that night. Delivery logged. You may rest. The next morning, she got a text from a number she didn't know. Courier 447, you've been observed. You're adapting. She blocked the number. It didn't help. The message was still there the next time she unlocked the phone. She spent that day walking along Lake Erie, hoping a little wind and open space might clear the feeling. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized she hadn't seen a single recipient. No one had opened a door. No one had signed. Not once. She'd made 3 deliveries to addresses that shouldn't exist, and all 3 times the world had felt wrong, bent, like the rules of time and location didn't apply. as if the GPS didn't just find places, it created them. That evening, a voice message arrived from a blocked number, only 2 seconds long. It whispered, "She's here." Jen dropped the phone. When she picked it back up, her Navigata app had a new menu, a hidden one, labeled "Previous Couriers, Status, Terminated." Only one name wasn't blurred, Lacey Grange. Status, Undelivered, Intercepting. Jen stared at the screen. Her next delivery would arrive at 10:01 p.m. And something told her, this time, she wasn't just being watched. She was being followed. Every rule you follow buys you one more hour. But what no one tells you is these rules don't just keep you safe. They keep them out. Break one, and the shadows stop waiting. They start hunting. It started raining around 9 p.m. A soft, stubborn drizzle that didn't flood streets or make the news. It just clung to everything, soaked slowly into shoes and sleeves and hairlines. Jen sat in the motel bathroom with the fan on, staring at the gray flip phone resting on the sink. Navigata hadn't buzzed yet, but she knew it would. Always did. Her mom was coughing in the other room, the kind of low, persistent cough that tried to sound casual but didn't. Her daughter hummed quietly as she drew on an old receipt with a crayon. A part of Jen wanted to cancel, to ignore the buzz when it came and stay in, just once. But people didn't just leave midnight delivery. She wasn't sure what would happen if she refused a shift, but the word terminated echoed too clearly from the courier list. Lacey Grange hadn't delivered anything in weeks, and yet she was still active. At exactly 9:59 p.m., the phone lit up. Shift 3 initiated. Order 004. 9113 Sable Street, ETA 10:23 p.m. The address didn't sound fake this time. Jen searched it on her regular phone. It was real, a row house in old Brooklyn, near a scrapyard and an abandoned elementary school. For once, she exhaled. Something ordinary. She packed the poncho, zipped the phone into her hoodie pocket, and pedaled off. The house was there, as expected. Small, brick, worn, but lived in. Light in the upper window. Porch light, glowing orange, like a leftover Halloween bulb. No weird GPS marker. No alternate dimension. She climbed the 2 steps, package under her arm, and knocked 3 times. Footsteps answered. Human ones. A lock turned. The door opened 2 inches, held by a chain. An elderly man peered out, grizzled, eyes sharp. "That from them?" he asked. Jen blinked. "I'm just here to deliver." He nodded. "Place it on the stool, then leave." She did, then turned. But before she hit the sidewalk, the man's voice called out, not urgently, but politely. "Miss?" She turned back. "I didn't say thank you. That was rude of me." She shook her head. "No problem. Would you like to come in for some tea? It's cold tonight." There it was. Rule 7. If invited inside, decline no matter who asks. Her heart began thudding. "Sorry," she said, trying to sound light. "I have more deliveries." His expression didn't change. "It won't take long." She took a step back. "I appreciate it, but I have to go." The man's hand reached forward, touching the screen door. Some people say no too often. They forget the value of hospitality. Jen kept walking. When she reached the street, she dared one glance back. The porch was empty. No man, no light, not even the package, just the door wide open. At 11:01 p.m., Navigata buzzed again. Order 005, 7720 Concord Avenue, 2nd floor unit, ETA 11:21 p.m. She tapped the accept button without thinking, but her hands were shaking slightly. Her brain kept returning to the man on Sable Street. His eyes had been human, but his words had gaps, like someone reading from a page written in another language. Concord Avenue was farther out, close to the water. The houses thinned, fewer streetlights. The kind of neighborhood that used to be full of life now, just parking lots and chain link fences and shells of buildings from the last century, 7,720 was a triplex, one of those tall, narrow houses built with 3 apartments stacked vertically. The first floor was boarded up. The third floor windows were shattered. Only the second-story window had light, blue, flickering. Jen walked up the narrow stairs on the outside of the building, hand on the railing, water dripping from the gutters. She knocked. 1, 2, 3. The door opened. This time, no one stood there. Inside was dark, but not silent. From somewhere in the back of the apartment came the low sound of something being dragged. "Midnight delivery," Jen called out. "Package." The dragging stopped. Then, a voice, quiet, feminine. "Come in." Her throat tightened. "Rule 7. Again." She stepped back. "I'm instructed not to enter." Silence. Then the dragging began again, but faster. She dropped the package just inside the doorway, turned, and bolted down the stairs. Behind her, she swore she heard laughter, quiet, wheezing. Back on the street, her phone buzzed. Order delivered, protocol intact. But she didn't feel intact. She felt watched. Back at the motel, Jen dried her hair and scrolled mindlessly through social media. Her personal phone buzzed, unknown number. She didn't answer. The voicemail auto-downloaded. She pressed play. It was just breathing, wet, close, like someone pressing their lips against the mic. Then a voice whispered, "You looked." She hadn't, not really, but she knew which delivery it referred to. At 1:10 a.m., a third order came through. Order 006, location withheld, approach only when signaled. The map showed no address, just a pin floating in a blank grid. Beneath it, "Do not begin route until instructed." For the next 45 minutes, Jen sat in her room, fully dressed, phone face up. Nothing happened. Then, at 1:55 a.m., a new line appeared. "Begin now." No more hesitation. She biked northwest, through industrial roads and empty shipping yards. Her path led toward a district she didn't recognize, no street names, no buildings on her personal map. The Navigata screen dimmed as she got closer. Not turned off, dimmed, like the phone didn't want her to see clearly. Finally, she arrived at a warehouse. No name, no number, just a single flickering light over a steel roll-up door. The app flashed. "Do not dismount. Deliver from vehicle." She slowed, pulled up close. The door creaked open, no one visible. Inside, stacks of boxes reached the ceiling. On a crate near the door was a sign in red marker, "Drop here." She placed the package down. As she turned to pedal away, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a woman, late 20s, maybe short dark hair, gray courier jacket soaked in rain, eyes tired but alert. "Jen Harper," she said softly. Jen froze. "I'm Lacey." Every part of her body screamed run, but her curiosity was stronger. "You're the other courier?" Lacey nodded. "I was. I broke a rule." "Which one?" Lacey tilted her head. "I opened a package." Jen stepped back. "Why?" "Because it was humming." Lacey took a step forward. Inside was a cassette tape. I listened to it. "What was on it?" Lacey smiled, sadly. "Instructions for how to escape." Jen's heart leapt. "So you can get out?" Lacey looked behind her into the warehouse. "Yes, but only if someone takes your place." Jen's stomach turned. "You mean you took the job? That means you're eligible." Lacey's voice grew thinner. "I've delivered 999 packages. I only need one more, then I'm free." Jen backed away. Lacey didn't chase her. She only whispered, "Don't trust the rules. They change when no one's looking." Then she stepped backward into the dark. That night, Jen couldn't sleep. She sat by the bathroom door, phone on the floor, rereading the rules. Every one of them felt designed to protect her or isolate her. But something Lacey said lingered. "I only need one more." It made her wonder if someone had passed the contract on to her, and what would happen if she lasted long enough to do the same. She wrote a new note on the back of the envelope where her rules were listed. Rule 8. Never let someone else finish your deliveries. Because maybe that's what they wanted, not a courier, but a chain. One desperate person after another. And if Jen broke the chain, maybe she'd break the system. Or maybe it would break her first. Rules don't just protect you. Sometimes they're a trap disguised as a safety net. Sometimes survival is just someone else's shortcut to freedom. Jen didn't sleep. By the time morning rolled in and the motel parking lot began to hum with the sound of pickup trucks and overheated engines, Jen had already reviewed the rules 9 times. Every word, every phrasing, every gap. She'd highlighted notes in pen, circled odd phrases, and started drawing lines between certain instructions. Do not look back. Connected to, do not speak unless spoken to. What happens, she wondered, if 2 rules contradict each other? At 8:03 a.m., a package appeared outside her motel door. Not a Navigata one. No buzz, no notification, no ETA. Just there. It was identical to the one she delivered. Matte black wrapping paper, sealed with no tape, no glue, just held shut by pressure, like the cardboard wanted to stay closed. But this time, her name was written on it. Jennifer Harper, for your eyes only. She stared at it for 5 minutes before picking it up. It was light, too light, almost empty. She didn't open it, not yet. She walked back into the room, locked the bathroom door behind her, and sat on the closed toilet seat with the fan on, package in her lap. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed, no signature. It read, "Courier 038 has failed to complete their term. The chain is fraying. They left something behind. Find it before Navigata does. Code, Grange, 2 vertical bar location, Redmore Station, abandoned platform B." She stared at the name, Grange. That wasn't a coincidence. Lacey had been telling the truth. That night, there was no delivery scheduled. None. Jen kept checking the app, refreshing, waiting, opening and closing Navigata like it was broken. But it stayed empty. No order, no shift, just a blinking status line. Awaiting reassignment. Her fingers itched to text someone, anyone, but she'd already burned that bridge. Her personal phone barely worked anymore, most numbers redirected to busy tones, and her saved contacts either rang endlessly or returned as number disconnected. Navigata wasn't just assigning deliveries, it was consuming her world. By midnight, Jen couldn't take it. She packed a flashlight, took the courier phone, and biked through the dark toward Redmore Station. The old light rail stop had been shut down years ago, after a fire gutted the tunnels and rumors spread about people disappearing. Local news said it was a squatter hub. But Jen had been there once, back in high school. She remembered the air, thick and strange, like water vapor that didn't want to rise. She reached the outer platform by 12:47 a.m. The entire entrance was sealed with caution tape and a no trespassing city property sign. The stairs down were rusted and uneven. Her phone lost service before she hit the bottom. Inside, a long curved tunnel, echoes of water dripping in regular beaks. Flashlight beams caught fragments of graffiti, old posters, broken glass, nothing new. Until she found it. At the end of the platform, near a half-buried exit sign, a locker sat open. Inside, another package, and a cassette player. Jen picked it up. The tape was already loaded. No labels, no markings. She hesitated, then pressed play. A woman's voice crackled through, tired, dry, and frightened. "This is Lacey Grange. If you're hearing this, I didn't make it out. I've tried to trace the architecture of Navigata's deliveries, the patterns, the logic. It's not human. It mimics choice, simulates freedom. But the system feeds off uncertainty. Your fear is a currency. Deliveries don't go to people. They go to gaps, weak points, doors, fault lines between our world and something else. If you're still delivering, stop. If you're thinking about quitting, don't wait. Burn the phone, burn the packages, leave the city. But whatever you do, don't open one, never open one. They know when you see the truth." Click. Silence. Then a new voice broke through, a different tone. Familiar. "Courier 038. This recording violates protocol. You have breached Rule 14. No unauthorized communication. This is your final warning. Package logged as intercepted. Initiating sequence." Jen yanked the tape out and smashed it underfoot. Suddenly, the phone in her hoodie vibrated. Not a buzz, a constant vibration. The screen showed only 3 words. "You listen. Run." From behind her, metal scraped concrete. Jen turned. A figure stood at the far end of the tunnel. Or maybe not a figure, a negative space. It absorbed light, shadow in a shape that shouldn't hold weight. She ran, didn't look back, didn't stop until she was back on the bike, sprinting through empty intersections and alleys. Every time she blinked, she saw it shape again, reverse silhouette, limbs too long, head slightly tilted as if curious. She didn't sleep that night. The phone stopped vibrating around 3 a.m. The Navigata app had changed. The background now pulsed a slow, rhythmic dimming and brightening, like it was breathing. She opened it. There was a new delivery. No address, no time, just a message. "We see you." The next day, her motel key stopped working. She went to the front desk. A new woman was working. "Room 22? Jen asked, tired. The woman squinted. "There is no room 22. Jen blinked. "I've been staying there all week." The woman tapped her keyboard. "Our room stop at 21. Jen walked the halls. Sure enough, no room 22. No door between 21 and 23, just a blank stretch of wall. Like it had never existed. She returned to the sidewalk. Her backpack was gone. Her mother, gone. Her daughter, gone. Only the courier phone remained in her hand, buzzing. "Order 007, location, home, Ida, now." She screamed. Right there on the street. Passers-by didn't look, didn't blink, didn't even seem to see her. That night, she tried to log into her personal email, denied. Her bank app, closed. Her name wasn't listed on any records she could access. She called her own number. This number has not been assigned. Jen Harper was disappearing, but the phone still buzzed. Navigata still knew her name. At 11:11 p.m., she received a private message through the app. No menu, no username, just a blinking cursor. Then the words appeared, letter by letter. "You don't have to deliver it." She froze. The app never spoke this way. She typed, "Then what do I do? Keep it, protect it. Someone is coming for it. Don't let them open it." The message vanished. Then a new delivery ping appeared. "Order 008, do not fulfill." That was it. No address, no rules. The screen pulsed. For the first time, the package arrived before the order, sitting beside her motel's garbage bin, waiting. She picked it up. It was cold, and it was humming. Obedience is not safety. Safety is not silence. When a system devours identity, the only act of rebellion left is refusal. Jen kept the package in a shoebox under the motel bed. It still pulsed faintly, emitting a low electrical hum that made her teeth buzz if she stood too close. She hadn't slept. Not really. She'd doze off for minutes at a time, waking with a start, afraid the humming would stop or worse, that it would change. She didn't trust the rules anymore, but she also didn't trust breaking them, not after what happened at Redmore. That night, she received a new message. This time, not through the Navigata app, but scrawled in blue chalk on the sidewalk outside her room. Meet us, 4 a.m. Prospect and daylight. Ask for Mira. She almost didn't go, thought it could be a trap. But when 4 a.m. rolled around and the package under her bed briefly stopped humming, just stopped, she realized she had no choice. Prospect and Daylight was a shattered intersection in a forgotten part of the industrial district. Graffiti curled like ivy up the broken walls of shuttered meatpacking plants. A single light flickered above a pawn shop with no windows. She waited. Then, from the alley behind her, came a whisper, "Courier." Jen turned. A girl emerged no older than 17, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big and gloves with the fingertips cut off. "You got the box?" the girl asked. Jen didn't answer. The girl stepped closer. "I'm Mira." "How do I know I can trust you?" "You don't," Mira said flatly. "But if you don't come with me, Navigata will. And they don't knock first." She gestured toward a door. Jen hesitated, then followed. They descended 4 stories into the basement of an abandoned subway hub. Jen kept waiting to hear the hum of Navigata's phantom buzz, that insectile vibration in her hoodie pocket, but nothing came. Inside the hideout, there were 6 others, all ages. A man who looked like a retired accountant, a college girl with a scar across her chin, a boy still wearing his high school varsity jacket, now covered in grime. "Welcome to the dead routes," Mira said. "What is this place? Where the couriers who disobeyed end up, if they survive?" Jen turned to the others. "You were all delivering?" One nodded. "Rule breakers, package stealers, refusers. Most of us tried to game the system." "And lived?" Jen asked. "For now," Mira said. Jen pulled the shoebox from her backpack and placed it on the table. Everyone stepped back. Mira's face drained. "You kept it?" "I was told not to deliver it." "By who?" the accountant snapped. "Navigata doesn't ask. It commands." Jen looked down. A message appeared. It said someone was coming for it, and not to let them open it. The girl with the scar stepped forward. "That package is the virus. It's what breaks the network." Jen blinked. "What do you mean?" "They've been trying to kill it for months. That's why they haven't reassigned your shift yet. You're holding the one thing they can't overwrite, the last uncorrupted data object." Mira nodded. "The network feeds on obedience. But this package is not just a delivery, it's a kill switch." The accountant muttered. "Or a trap." Mira looked Jen in the eyes. "You want out? Really out? Then we have to take it where they can't follow." "Where's that?" She pulled out a map. It showed old rail lines, deep ones, no longer in use. The core node, beneath Junction 9, it's where Navigata was born. If we get the package there and drop it in the source, it could sever the loop, in the chain. Jen looked at the others. They were scared, tired, marked by whatever they'd seen out there on the dark roads. But they weren't gone, not yet. "I'll do it," she said. They rode bikes through the abandoned rail tunnels, cutting through layers of rot and dust and time. The air grew colder. Jen kept the package wrapped in an old coat. It hummed louder as they got closer. Then, the lights began to fail. One by one, flashlights fizzled, batteries drained, even their phone screens dimmed. Mira's voice cut through the dark. They know where we're going. At the final chamber, a concrete vault surrounded by dead server racks and flickering CRT monitors, the air thickened like smoke. Then Jen saw it. A tall, shadow-like figure in the center of the room, the same one she'd glimpsed back at Redmore Station. Only now, it had a face. Her face. It opened its mouth. A static, mechanical tone came out familiar and robotic. Courier 041, do not complete this action. The network requires continuity. Delivery sustains life. Life is delivery. Jen stepped forward. You don't get to own me. The thing raised one long hand glitching between flesh and shadow. Reject the infection. Restore the chain. But Jen didn't listen. She stepped past the figure directly into the core. It didn't stop her. She dropped the package onto the node. The moment it hit metal, the entire room shuddered. Every screen turned white. The shadow screamed a sound like breaking glass looped 1,000 times. Then silence. When Jen opened her eyes, she was in her motel room. Alone. Phone gone. No buzzing. The clock read 10:04 a.m. Outside, traffic moved. Normal. She opened the door and stepped outside. A warm breeze touched her cheek. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't carrying anything. Just herself. She checked the front desk. Same woman, different face. Checking out? Jen smiled. Yeah. She walked away. No message came. No order. Nothing. She was free. Jen didn't look back as she walked out of the motel parking lot that morning. There was no plan, no job to report to, no app waiting for her thumbprint. And yet, for the first time in weeks, her head was quiet. The streets looked clearer, more vivid, not brighter, but present. Like the static film that had fogged her vision was gone. She spent the day walking aimlessly downside neighborhoods she hadn't visited since high school, past graffiti playgrounds, near a boarded-up diner where her mom used to work the night shift. At a thrift shop in Westlake, she bought a paperback copy of The Bell Jar and a faded denim jacket with someone else's name stitched into the collar. She tried not to think about the past month. Tried not to ask questions she couldn't answer, like why the Navigata app was gone from her phone, completely scrubbed, or how her motel bill had been marked paid in full. She hadn't done that. And when she tried to log back into her bank account, she found it had been reset with a single line on the homepage, closed by user, but she hadn't closed anything. Still, no texts, no calls, no buzz, just silence. 3 days passed. On the 4th morning, something strange happened. She stopped at a local library to rest. It was empty, too empty, considering the time of day. Inside, a fluorescent light flickered above the checkout desk, and the radio behind the counter played an old Patsy Cline song on repeat, skipping in the middle of each verse like a warped record. At first, she dismissed it as a glitch, but then she saw the man. Middle-aged, clean-shaven, with a clipboard tucked under his arm. He stood in the aisle labeled Transportation, staring at a shelf of outdated bus schedules. When he noticed her watching, he gave a polite smile and returned to scanning the books, but something in her stomach flipped. The way he blinked too slow, the way he moved his hand too precise, mechanical. She slipped out the side door and didn't stop walking until she hit the edge of the city's East District. There, in the long stretch of road behind a shuttered strip mall, she finally admitted it. The game wasn't over. That night, she returned to her mother's house, the real one, not the one Navigata had faked. It was abandoned, the yard overgrown. but the key was still taped to the underside of the mailbox, just like always. Inside, the house was untouched. Her mom's photos still hung on the fridge. A ceramic duck still sat on the kitchen table. Dust coated everything, but there was no sign of intrusion, no forced entry, no damage, just a stillness that didn't feel peaceful. In the back bedroom, her daughter's toys were packed into boxes, labeled and stacked neatly, too neatly, like someone had staged it for her return. That's when she heard it. A faint click from the hallway. She turned. At the front door, a single package had appeared, wrapped in black, sealed, familiar. Jen's knees locked. She hadn't ordered anything. She hadn't accepted a shift. The app was gone. She didn't even own a courier phone anymore. But there it was, square, perfect, humming. She approached it slowly. Her heart thumped like a metronome in her throat. This wasn't supposed to happen. She had ended it, destroyed the core, severed the node. She knelt beside the box. This time, the label didn't say an address. It said, "To Jennifer Harper, final fulfillment required." She stood and backed away. Number, but the hum deepened. Then her old courier phone buzzed inside her jacket pocket. She hadn't even realized it was there. The screen came alive. Final task authorized. One last delivery. Reject and you will be unmade. She gripped the phone and stared at the screen. Her hand trembled, but something stronger surged up in her chest, anger. This wasn't about serving. This wasn't about completion. This was about control. If she accepted the task, she let them define her ending. If she rejected it, well, maybe there was no plan for that. Maybe they hadn't considered it. She turned off the phone, Saturday beside the box, and waited. The sun rose, then set. Nothing happened. For 2 days, she stayed inside. Didn't eat, didn't sleep. The package kept humming. The phone kept vibrating. On the third night, she opened the front door. It was no longer her neighborhood. Outside, there were no houses, no trees, just gray sky and a single road stretching into the dark. A familiar voice whispered from behind her, "You were the last one." She turned. Lacey Grange stood in the hallway. Her clothes were torn. Her eyes were pale and distant. "You delivered the end," Lacey said. "You didn't finish it. That's the difference." Jen stepped back. "This isn't real." "It's as real as it needs to be," Lacey whispered. "They didn't want the package delivered. They wanted you to carry it. That's the delivery. You." Jen fell to her knees. "What do I do?" "Don't finish it. That's the only way to finish it." She looked down. The package had opened. She hadn't touched it. Inside, there was nothing. Just a mirror. She leaned in and saw herself. Not just a reflection, a version. Courier uniform, expressionless, the hum of Navigata behind her. Then the mirror shattered. The phone screen blinked. Task canceled. Route void. The hum stopped. Jen stood in silence. The air felt different, like the moment before a thunderstorm, but without the storm. The box crumbled to ash. The phone died for good. Outside, the neighborhood returned. Birdsong filtered in through the window. A breeze moved through the trees. Jen walked out onto the porch, alive, whole, free. Really, this time, systems of control don't end with compliance or rebellion. They end when you refuse to play the role at all. You are not the message. You are the choice. And choosing not to deliver what breaks you is the one thing they can't predict.